So we think we're so sophisticated and we're so enlightened, but really we're no different than pagan societies for the last 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. We've got this massive inflation. Cost of living is huge. There's more and more barriers that have made it difficult. But those are all because we have abandoned a biblical worldview, abandoned truth in order to have a nihilistic worldview of self. And we've put ourself at the center. And of course, we know that Christ said, you have to die to self in order to gain life.
Classical Conversation Studios presents Refining Rhetoric with CEO Robert Bortons, a podcast where faith, business, politics, and classical education meet. Join us as we use the classical tools of rhetoric to seek truth in every arena of life.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Refining Rhetoric. And you may have heard the news that in the United States, we are approaching or have surpassed below the replacement rate, that we're not having enough babies to sustain our culture and to sustain society. If you're, in middle age, like I just entered, we need these young people to have more kids so that we can continue the Social Security Ponzi scheme that I've been paying into to pay for all these boomers' retirements. And it looks like the free ride's going to end very soon because we're not having enough kids. And I saw this article a few months ago, and I wanted to talk about it because it's really encapsulating where we are as a society, why young people, one of the reasons young people may not be having kids, and what can we do about it as Christians, and should we even care what the pagans are doing anyways? And this is an article on CNN. I really encourage everyone to watch these on YouTube because we can look at, or now we have the technology, we've built it so that you are able to see what I'm seeing and see these articles that we're talking about. So be sure to check us out on YouTube. And this is from CNN, and this is op-ed from Anna Lee, who is an intern with CNN Opinion, a fourth-year English major at the College of the Holy Cross. And it starts off, if temperatures weren't rising, I'd choose the name Athena for a girl. If the rivers were safe, I'd choose William for a boy. If I could breathe clean air on my morning commute, I'd paint the nursery a warm yellow. If I could see hope for a sustainable future on this planet, I wouldn't be spending time mourning the children I'll probably never have. Well, my first advice, Anna, is to move out of the city, and you can have that clean air and good water at your fingertips and not have to worry about that morning commute anyways, because you'll be spending time with your kids. But this is really a good article in the sense that it shows what the pagans have learned in government school systems and how that worldview is shaping their decisions to not have kids. Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York said on Instagram, I believe, in 2019, is it okay to still have children? And as you gathered from the opening paragraph, is climate anxiety is becoming unbearable. Basically, that young people have so much fear of the climate and the change that they're not wanting to bring children into the world. And this is really just a old idea. Child sacrifice was a common way of bringing rain for the crops. Killing virgin females was a great way of pleasing the gods so that society could be well off. And so this is an old pagan idea that we should sacrifice our children, either figuratively or literally, in order to appease the climate and everything that's going on. So we think we're so sophisticated and we're so enlightened, but really we're no different than pagan societies for the last 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. And we think this idea of the American dream and this American lifestyle is normal, or that's what we want to aspire to. And it really isn't. The idea of going out to eat 5 days a week, or, $7 coffees. I mean, if you think about it, if you have two $7 coffees in a week, that is basically feeding a family dinner for one night. So we just frivolously spend money, not thinking about our future selves. And we do it for temporary gain, for the pleasures of this world that are fleeting, instead of for eternal gain, for pleasures that will last a lifetime and beyond. And so, yeah, it can be difficult. Yes, I don't want to, stop going out to eat, or, these different ideas, but all of these little things are what's piling up to become a one big thing of, I can't afford to get married. I can't afford to have kids. And it's simply not true. We are just simply spending our time and our lives in ways that are really a sacrifice to the God of self, instead of laying down our cross and dying to self and choosing life instead. And it's not easy. It can be difficult, but we can all make better decisions. And it's just not us as individuals who maybe want to get married or have kids, but how can we as a church body help society and help them make better decisions as well? And of course, a lot of young people today, even Christians who may want to get married and have a lot of kids, we've adopted these pagan ideas in society. And so we've got this massive inflation. Cost of living is huge. There's more and more barriers that have made it difficult. But those are all because we have abandoned a biblical worldview, abandoned truth in order to have a nihilistic worldview of self. And we've put ourself at the center. And of course, we know that Christ said, you have to die to self in order to gain life. And raising children is hard. It is a sacrifice, but it is worth it. There's more and more articles and op-eds coming out now of women in Hollywood who are 50, 60s, who never had children, who are saying it's lonely, that they sacrificed having children either figuratively or literally, and they wish they hadn't done that for their careers, and that their careers are not visiting them in their homes. Their careers are not calling them on the holidays to see how they're doing. Their careers are not bringing grandchildren over for Christmas to open presents, and that the lie that they bought into has hurt them as an individual later in life. And so it is difficult. There are barriers, but, as a society, and especially as Christians, we can lift each other up. We can bear each other's burdens, as the Bible tells us to do. Grandparents can become more involved in their children's lives. That was something that was really common, right? We used to not move around like we can today. We didn't have the ability to hop on a plane or a car. Families stayed together. They lived on similar land, did similar jobs, and were able to help each other out. And so that's not something that should be frowned upon or looked down upon. That's something that God has called us to, that you're not just responsible for one another until you're 18, but as families, we can work together more effectively. And as a church, right? Churches should have education funds. Churches should have different programs and really just lifting people up. The body of Christ, it's called the body of Christ, with different responsibilities and roles for a reason. And as Christians, we should, make sure that our children aren't getting indoctrinated by these climate alarmists. Yes, God told us to take care of this planet and to do it and to treat it well. And that's absolutely part of, the Dominion command. But we got to understand that what the world is telling us to do to save the environment is actually not often good for the environment. So climate anxiety is becoming unbearable. Look, if you're young, yes, it's going to be difficult. There's going to be different sacrifices, but it's going to be worth it. So, if you're newly married or not married yet, start thinking about a plan. How are you going to prepare for life when you're older and those things? Are you going to spend money on frivolous things now? Or are you going to think about, hey, what do I need to do the next 10, 20, 30 years to set myself up for living a truly good life, one that is in alignment with how the Bible tells us to live? If you're a grandparent or wanting to be a grandparent, how can you convince your kids or, talk to your kids and let them know like, hey, this is what we're willing to do. Hey, we know that, society has gone off its rails. It has abandoned good economic principles. It has abandoned family as the center of government. It has taken all of these things upon itself that aren't in line with God, and so we get bad results. But we're going to make it so that we live our lives in a way that reflects His glory, and that we remember that He is King now and forevermore. And so we need to be getting married, having children, and raising them in a way that glorifies the Lord. And one of the things, we see in society, a lot of people say, how did we get this far left so fast? Or, the U.S. seems to be hurtling off a crater. We just hit $34 trillion in federal debt. And, all of these things have gone wrong. Well, good news is the pagans are not having children and Christians are. And so simply by having children, encouraging them to live lives that allow them to have additional children, you're able to multiply yourself. You're able to continue the culture that you would have that are in line with biblical worldview. And just in a couple of generations, if we keep our kids out of the indoctrination centers called government schools, we can turn this around. We can have a society that honors God and honors what we would have. And it starts at home by getting married and having kids. And if you're already past that, start thinking, how can I encourage and set up the next generation to get me those grandbabies? And of course, enroll those grandbabies into classical conversations. Until next time, be sure to look at the world through a biblical lens, use the 15 tools of learning, and share this episode with a friend. Hello, everyone. I'm hoping that I will see you at our National Events Weekend on May 2nd through 4th, 2024 in sunny Southern Pines, North Carolina. This is being presented by our Classical Conversations Foundation. It is a time for CC families from around the nation to experience 3 days of events and learning about classical education and celebrating the hard work of fellow families on their homeschooling journey. Some of the major events we have are our national conference, where myself and my mom will be speaking along with other panels, such as a grad panel and a dad panel, and you'll hear a lot about the math map. We'll have a national commencement, so if you have a graduating senior, this year we've actually doubled the number of commencements, so we've added a second one so we can allow more people to come and celebrate with us, so be sure to look out for registration for that. And of course, we have the National Memory Master Competition, where one student will win $10,000. And it's such a fun time, and we are going to be opening that up to the public for the first time, so you can sit in and watch it. And it's going to be an exciting time. There's a ton of things on the agenda. We'll have food trucks. We've got camps for your students. So if you're a Classical Conversations family, we are encouraging you to come May 2nd through 4th, 2024. Registration is going to open on November 1st, and you can learn more by going to classicalconversationsfoundation.org today. And again, that website is classicalconversationsfoundation.org to get your tickets, and we'll see your family there.
Welcome to Classical Crypto with Will. I'm ecstatic today. 2 days ago, January 10th, the Bitcoin ETF was officially approved by the SEC. I can't believe I just said that. If you've been in this industry, and if you've been an observer or a participant, I have for the last 6 years, but if you're in it at all, you've had this tension. Is this ever going to happen? Is crypto real? Is it going to take over? And you start learning the fundamentals and go, wow, I really believe in this, the sovereignty of money and governing that myself and having a limited supply, not an unending supply like the dollar and fiat currency. And the SEC approved a spot ETF for not just one or two companies, but 11 spot ETFs were approved, which is amazing. Just a few of them are ARK Investments, BlackRock. I mean, the same ones that we've been talking about. Fidelity got one, I believe. It happened. It's amazing. It doesn't seem real. There are billions of dollars that poured into it on day one. The price of Bitcoin, though, has significantly dropped. And I think a lot of people, a lot of retail investors, and some institutions too, in anticipation of this, were pouring their money into Bitcoin. And then that was a good thing. And the price rose. And as soon as everything got approved, their billions came in, but some people sold. So I think it's stabilizing right now. And over the course of the next year, mark my words, the price of Bitcoin will go up. So it's really neat what is happening right now. I can't believe it. Now, this has spurred on a lot of drama on a global national scale. Vanguard threw a hissy fit about this. They shunned Gary Gensler, SEC, made a bunch of public relations statements, just shunning them, just going, what are you doing? You're undermining our economy, blah, blah, blah. And their customers are leaving in droves. And they're going to places like Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and Fidelity and ARK Investments and everyone who believes in this concept of real money. And this is just the start of this. Bitcoin, decentralized finance, all of that it's still like a tiny little speck compared to the commodities markets, to Wall Street, stock markets. But all those big players are going, hey, look, all of these commodities and stocks are going to 100% be tokenized in the next 10 years. So just like the internet came on, Web 2, there was a big explosion. We're starting to see that for Web 3, and it's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold. So as always, put God first, be a smart observer, a good researcher, use your rhetoric. And if you feel led, you might want some exposure to Bitcoin now, especially now that this ETFs comes through. So 401ks are going to come into this. Boomer money is going to finally come into this. A lot of old money will start flowing in because those rails were just set up. So fascinating. One last thing. This is more of a celebration segment today. But Michael Saylor, he is I believe he was the owner, founder, and then he was the CEO for a while and he stepped down. He was the founder of MicroStrategies. He was on Sean Hannity and claims to be talking to a lot of lawmakers and folks with authority and proposed this last week. What would it look like if Bitcoin backed the dollar? Now, again, that was a proposition that was made, but what would that look like? Because he's going, hey, faith alone is not enough to back it, especially when BRICS nations, China, Russia, are buying tremendous amounts of precious metals to back their currencies or even their cryptos. He's saying we need to back the dollar. If the dollar is going to be our leading way of transacting over the next 10 years, what are you going to back it with? And through Sean Hannity, he proposed that to the world. And it was fun to hear Sean Hannity is just trying to figure out Bitcoin for the first time. I mean, he's really at the Bitcoin for Dummies stage, but he's all into it. It was interesting conversation. But maybe I'd leave you with this today. In light of Bitcoin against all odds, moving forward, time after time after time, even after the media, the elites say it's rat poison, all this stuff. Now we're saying, oh, they were buying it. They were telling you it was poison while they were buying it and making sure they had a stake in Web3 and what is coming. So keep that in the back of your mind and ask yourself, what is backing the dollar? Maybe there's something better than Bitcoin. Maybe we need to go back to gold. What is that? It's been real. It's Will of Classical Crypto. I'm excited for our next segment.
Thank you for listening to Refining Rhetoric with Robert Bortons. Want more? Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. You can also follow us on social media to continue the conversation and visit classicalconversations.com/rhetoric to find out how you can join a local homeschool community.